welcome back to the Button Tree Book Club. I'm Haley, and this week we are talking about Book 1 of Lauren DeStefano's series, The Internment Chronicles, Perfect Ruin. I want to start by talking about this beautiful, beautiful cover art. I think I ultimately picked this book because of the beautiful cover art. The colors, the design, it's stunning. And this is one of those times when, like, judging a book by its cover was actually okay. The cover is stunning. This book was really good. I really enjoyed it. I had lots of people tell me, like, recommend this a while back. I had a friend that read it. They're like, oh yeah, you'd like it. Because I had just read the Match series. And they're like, oh, if you liked the Match series, you'll like this. And if you read Matched, I haven't finished this yet. Like, this is book 1. And I'm definitely going to keep reading. I'm probably going to do more videos about book 2 and book 3. I don't know if there's more. I think it's just a trilogy. Definitely going to be doing more videos talking about the others eventually. Not yet. Because we have lots to come in book club. But this week we're talking about this book right here. So we have, the main character is Morgan. This book it's a bit sci-fi, it's a bit fantasy, definitely dystopian, young adult fiction. And so we have Morgan, who's the main character, who lives on the city that's on, like, a giant piece of land in the sky, which is really cool. Like, the second I read the premise of it, if it's like a city that's been put into the sky by, like, a supposed, like, everyone thinks it's like a sky god or all that, and how it's a city that just lives in the sky, and how it's just a small place, there's not that many people. Hi, buddy. Hi. How it's supposed to be like this perfect world, there's perfect order, but of course, like with all dystopian, it's actually a dystopia, where there's problems, and there's, things going on behind the scenes that the main character doesn't know about right away, but she finds out through the course of the story. Other main characters would be Penn, who is her best friend. Basil, I want to say Basil because I see his name and it's spelled like the herb. It's probably like Basil, one of those two pronunciations, who is the main love interest in the story. So what starts happening in the story is there's a series of crimes, and there's a series of crimes which shows you that this world is actually quite dystopian and that there's a lot wrong with this world. It's run by a king who I definitely say, like, he's living in fear. The king is full of fear, and because he's fearful, he's abusing his power and abusing the people, and he's keeping things from them. Towards the pretty early on in the book, there's a crime. I'm not going to talk about what the crime is, but there's a crime. And the whole thing is, like, there's a series of them that spiral starting from that one event. And then you see one after the other, and they're like, oh, it's treason, it's terrible. And then things just continue to get worse and worse. I don't want to talk about the ending because I don't want to, like, ruin it. But I do want to talk about the idea that this is a city floating just in the middle of the sky. And so a really big part of the whole story, even from the beginning, is that people are tempted by the edge, to just, like, walk off the edge. Now, of course, there's, like, fencing, and there's people that patrol it and make sure that doesn't happen often, but of course, it does happen, and that's a big element of the story, people that, like, want to just go off the edge, find out what's on the ground, because they don't know. The city has been in the sky for, they say, like, several generations. I get the idea that it's been, like a few to several hundred years that they've been up here. Alright. We're back. Sorry. Cats. Guys, cats. Alright, we're talking about the city. It's in the clouds, how there's a lot of problems, and how there's people that, like, the back of the book, I'm gonna read it. You have all heard the warnings about the edge. We've been told its winds are a song that will hypnotize us, and by the time we awaken from that trance, it will be too late. So the whole story, like, part of this, a big portion is, like, that the edge is this tempting thing, it's this place you're not supposed to go, don't talk about the edge, don't go to the edge, and there's, like, special groups made, like, they're like meeting groups of people that actually do jump. See, and here's the crazy thing, so people that jump, they don't leave, like, the wind actually blow them right back up, but typically it leaves them with some type of trauma. In the case of Morgan's older brother, who is a jumper, we learned that early in the story, Morgan's older brother was a jumper, and he went blind because of it, because my guess is like the winds threw him back and he hit his head in a way that just caused him to go blind. And there's other people that suffer different traumas from being thrown back on. So the idea is that you can't leave internment, but that people want to, that there's, people want to know what's on the ground, why can't we leave? The premise is the idea that people abuse the earth, they abuse the ground, and the god figure of the earth was done with them, so he sent humans up into the sky because he was done with them abusing the earth. It's a cool concept. It's very, like, I first read it, I was like, oh, is this going to be all about, like, environmental stuff? Is this going to be, like, is it supposed to inspire people to be more environmentally friendly? I guess you could think of it that way, but I didn't, like, after those first little talks about it, it didn't really come back much. This world, though, I love the concept of internment, this world in the sky. It made, like, Lauren DeStefano definitely crafted this world very carefully. She thought about all the different things that might impact the world and came up with really strong ways of like talking about like the science to it, the fantasy to it, because there is some fantasy elements, like what keeps this place up in the sky. That's really not discussed a whole lot. Like there's like people talk about the theories of, oh, it's science. People talk, oh no, it's like a magical it's a magical thing that just holds them in the sky. It's from the gods. It's, who knows? Maybe that's going to come up in book 2 and book 3. I hope so. I think it'd be cool to hear more about like what actually caused it. Like, was it like, are gods actually part of this universe? Like, because there's some where it's like they start talking about like the Greek gods, Roman gods, Norse gods, like you see that, and I'm like, I want to know if that's actually going to be part of this story's world, or if it all really is science. That's like why it's up there. Like there was some big cataclysmic event that sent that city up into the sky, like the idea of Atlantis was banished under the sea by a cataclysmic event. So I'd be curious to see what will come next. I really love this story. If you have not read this, I highly recommend. There's a lot of books I'll read and I'll be like, they're okay, yeah, they're good. This was good. When I first started reading it, I have to admit, I don't think I've ever read this before, but I had such a feeling of deja vu, and at first I was like, I hope that's not a bad thing. Like, I hope this doesn't feel repetitive. And maybe I did at some point, like, start reading it and just stopped for who knows what reason. It's a good book. I can't imagine myself stopping. But, it was good. I really liked it. I highly recommend it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I think it's worth the read. Some people have said that the series, like, it lulls a bit. I don't know. I'm hoping it's really good. I'm hoping it continues to be as good as book 1. I typically have the feeling like book 2 is where things, like in a trilogy particularly, book 2 is either where good things happen and it's a really good bridge, or it can be where the story lulls a lot and it gets really hard to finish. I'm hoping it's the first. But I don't know. Because again, I don't know for sure that this is a trilogy. I've only seen 3 titles every time I look it up, but maybe there's a 4th one I just missed. But I'd love to know what you thought of this book. I think it's great. The characters, they were believable. I liked them. I mean, of course, they're complex, and of course, they're high school kids. Like, all these guys are high schoolers. I should say that. All these guys are high school equivalent. Their world is different than ours in that way, kind of. I mean, they go to school, they have all that. But, I mean, of course, high schoolers make dumb choices. We saw that in, like, every other series I've read so far. They're high schoolers. They're dumb. Teenagers, like, they think they know everything, or they think they're really smart, and typically they're really not. Like, yeah. So, now I want to talk about what we're doing next week, because next week is going to be a little different. Normally it'd be time to do our weekly drawing for our next story, but instead, because of the holiday seasons, we are doing a holiday episode, and we are reading a very special holiday story, A Christmas Carol, and we will be discussing the story. I'll be talking a little bit about the history of the story. This book also, I want to say, I found this at a local bookstore, as like at a resale store. The illustrations in this book are stunning, and they will definitely make an appearance in next week's video, as well as a little bit of different, some changes with the formatting of our video. There'll be some extras. It'll probably be a little longer, I would guess. But I hope you'll join us next week because we are going to talk about A Christmas Carol, and we will see you next week. Bye!